Hello everyone, welcome to my PowerPoint presentation. My name is Caitlin and I have decided to do my presentation on the 1973 case of Roe versus Wade. So let's go ahead and get started. So how this case came about, June 1969, a woman by the name of Norma L. McCorvey discovers she's pregnant with her third child. She moves back to Dallas, Texas, and her friends convince her to make false allegations that she had been raped and that her pregnancy was the result of that rape in order to obtain a legal abortion. At the time, abortions were only authorized in cases of rape or incest. Unfortunately for her, she was unable to get the legal abortion because there was no documentation of her rape, so they could not provide it for her, and she actually attempted to get an illegal abortion, but the clinic she was going to go to got shut down. Shortly after that, she was referred to attorneys Linda Coffey and Sarah Weddington, and in 1970 they officially filed a lawsuit under the alias of Jane Roe against District Attorney Henry Wade, who represented the state of Texas. So the outcome of that case, the prosecution basically said that denying Roe her abortion was against her constitutional rights, and she stated that due to her circumstances both physically and economically, that she had the right to terminate her own pregnancy in quote-unquote a safe medical environment. The courts did agree to this and deemed it unconstitutional. Wade did appeal this to the U.S. Supreme Court, and it was reviewed in 1971 and 1972. The outcome of that was a 7-2 decision ruled that Texas law violated her constitutional right to privacy, which is outlined in the 1st, the 4th, the 9th, and the 14th Amendment, all encompassing what would be known as a zone of privacy, which I will talk about in just a minute. So this slide seems a little bit like there's a lot going on, but it's really just to review all of the amendments that were used to deem this law unconstitutional. So First Amendment right, everyone enacts their First Amendment right. It is the amendment that gives you your freedom to speech, freedom to press, religion, peaceable assembly, petitioning, all of that. The Fourth Amendment is the probable cause amendment, so prohibits unreasonable searches and seizures, requires any warrant to be supported by probable cause. The Ninth Amendment states that basically despite rights that may not be explicitly mentioned, doesn't mean that they didn't exist, doesn't mean that they had the right to be violated. And of course the 14th Amendment addressed citizenship rights and equal protection of the law. This amendment did come about during the times of slaves, and it was just to basically say that anyone who's born in the United States got the same rights, same protection. And under this amendment is what's called the Due Process Clause, which covers life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. No one has the right to infringe on those rights without due process. So the zone of privacy, as I mentioned before, encompasses all of those amendments together. Activities covered by this include marriage, contraception, and child rearing. The courts did argue that it was broad enough to encompass a woman's decision whether or not to terminate her pregnancy in the first trimester, and this took into account physical, psychological, and economical stresses of a woman and what must be faced within a pregnancy. How this case changed everything. So from 1973 to 1992, the Supreme Court rejected dozens and dozens of state efforts to limit access to abortion. In 1992, in a case of Planned Parenthood versus Casey, upheld law in Pennsylvania requiring mandatory waiting periods, parental consent, and bias information. So specifically, it allowed laws designated to limit access to abortion at any stage of pregnancy, so long as the law does not place a quote-unquote undue burden, which, for example, spousal consent, the need to let your spouse know that you're going to get an abortion was deemed an undue burden. It was said to go against their right of privacy covered under the 14th Amendment. So that was thrown out basically. And then of course the Partial Birth Abortion Ban Act of 2003 prohibited the procedure of late-term abortion, commonly known as partial birth abortion. There is no set procedure, or was no set procedure for this, but it is considered the killing of a human fetus, and I believe it stated that anyone found, performing a partial birth abortion was to receive no less than 2 years in jail and a fine. So thank you so much for watching and listening on my presentation. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.